recognize that you have something going on in your life. Some of us are dealing with denial. We're acting as if we don't have anything going on. But until we come to a place of realization that we do have a problem, we can never go to God about that problem. But sometimes you've just got to realize things are worse than what they really seem to be, and you can't handle it by yourself. But God is saying all you have to do is cast it on me. Now, once you recognize that you have a burden, then you have to know how to release it. He says, cast the burden. What's interesting about the text is that this burden that the psalmist talks about, he says it's something that has been assigned to us by the Almighty. Well, wait a minute. It seems odd to me that God would give me something and then let me handle it by myself. So if he has assigned it to me, that means that he's going to aid me in what he has assigned me to deal with. He says, now I've assigned what you are going through, and it is not to make you bitter, but it's ultimately to make you better. It's not to break you, but it's ultimately there to build you. Some stuff we are dealing with, God says you've got to know how to recognize it and then release it and then be reminded of who you can turn it over to. You've got to know that you can give some stuff to God. It's some stuff that you will deal with in life that your money can't buy you out of it. Your friends can't talk you out of it. I mean, relationships can't get you out of it. But if you know how to go to God in prayer, and if you are bold enough to go before the throne of grace and say, look, God, this is what I'm dealing with, and I realize that this is the thing that's handling me, but I know that all power is in your hands, and whatever is handling you, God can handle it better. So why are you walking around dealing with it? Why are you trying to fix it yourself when the Bible explicitly teaches us that all we have to do is cast it to the Lord? You do know that the Lord cares for you, right? You do know that God is so concerned about you that he is saying all you have to do is give it to me. And I'm learning that when you give it to God, he knows how to change the situation. Watch what he says. He says, cast your burden upon the Lord. Then it says, he will sustain you, which would suggest you've got to confidently know that God cares about you in every circumstance. It says, when you cast your burden on the Lord, he will sustain you. Simply suggesting this: God is going to take care of you while you deal with whatever you're dealing with. See, God says this. He says, I can do this. I can either remove the thing from you, or what I can do is I can give you grace enough to handle it. If you don't believe me, Paul will tell you that he doesn't have to remove what's bothering you, but he knows how to give you grace to keep standing while you're going through. Somebody here, you know about that. You have been standing for a long time. You've been standing dealing with some stuff, but you have not fallen because it's God who is sustaining you. Folk are trying to figure out, how are you still smiling with all of the hell that you've gone through? How are you still standing with all of that weight that you've been dealing with? You have to tell them that there's nobody but God. I gave it to him and he released me from it, but I'm still dealing with some residue of the stuff that I've had to deal with, but I'm still here by the grace of God. Can anybody attest to the fact that you are still here by God's grace? You ought to touch somebody and say, I gave it to God and he sustained me. Now, in order for him to sustain me, that means that he is holding me. Anybody know he'll hold you? He is holding us. He knows how to keep us, and I'm thankful to serve a God who knows how to sustain me. He knows how to hold me even when I don't know how much longer I can hold on, because I know that there's been many of times that I've let go, but I didn't fall because he was holding on to me. I can count a number of times that I just gave up, but God didn't give up on me. There were a number of times I walked out on God, but he didn't walk out on me. That's why I know that he knows how to sustain us. Can you imagine the agony and the anguish that David is dealing with? He's mad, he's upset that his friend has forsaken him. His friend has turned his back on him, but he says, I've got to give this to God. Beloved, you have got to stop walking around with so much stuff on your shoulders. I mean, if you really want some peace in your life, If you really want some joy in your life, you've got to know how to give it up. See, when you give up to God, you're simply saying, Lord, I trust you more than I trust me. But the longer we hold on to it, the more we suggest to God that I don't trust you enough to take care of me. So what I'm going to do, I am going to keep holding on to this because I don't trust your hands. I trust my hands better. But I have a sneaky suspicion that I would rather have my problems in the hands of God than in my own hands. Because what I found out about God is a God who has never failed me. That's why the psalmist says this in the final clause of the verse. It says, you can cast your burden upon the Lord. It says he will sustain you. But then it says he will never allow the righteous to be shaken. He knows how to fix the foundation of the faithful so that we won't fall. See, what the Lord says is this. He says, I can hold you and keep you while you are going through. He says, but also I can steady your foundation that when every wind blows, he says, when every trial comes, and when the dust settles, they'll be looking for you to have fallen, but you will be still standing. It's some folk right now, the dust is all around you, but somebody's waiting to see what's going to happen when the dust has settled. But you can tell them, when the dust settles, I'll still be here. When the dust settles, I'll still be standing. When the storm quits blowing, I'll still be here. When the winds stop blowing, I'll still be here. Somebody's here today, after all of the turmoil that you've gone through in life, you are still here because God fixed your foundation. And watch this, he says, the righteous shall not be shaken. There's something about the righteous. This is not just anybody. He says the righteous will never be shaken. Now, you can't get right by yourself. The righteousness of God is something that has been imputed